And with me now is Peter Julian, NDP House Leader tonight. He joins us from Ottawa. Mr. Julian, thank you for being here tonight.
Good to be with you.
Now, you stood in the House of Commons today to ask Anthony Rota to resign, saying he can't continue in his role. Why do you believe that's the case?
First off, the appalling error of a judgment that led to last Friday's honoring of a Nazi, an SS former SS soldier in the House of Commons is something that has caused tremendous hurt right across the country. You think of the Jewish community with the millions of Jewish people that were killed in the genocide that is the Holocaust. For them to see as we go into Yom Kippur, that most sacred Jewish observation of their faith, that this happened in the House of Commons is something that provokes, I think, an enormous distress. And this is something that needs to be dealt with in the magnitude of the size of the error. An apology just doesn't do that, unfortunately. Secondly, the reality is every week in the House of Commons, the Speaker introduces literally dozens of people. We rely on the Speaker to show his or her good judgment to ensure that the people that are introduced to the House of Commons are actually worthy of that honor of being presented to the House of Commons and to be applauded in the House of Commons. And the Speaker failed miserably in this respect. And we cannot get into a situation where individual members of Parliament are having to do a double vetting of anybody that is introduced by the Speaker. So that lack of confidence, that breaking of the trust, is something that can't be rectified by anything other than the Speaker stepping down. Now, Anthony Rota, I thought, did a very good job as Speaker. He steered us through COVID. He steered us through the convoy takeover of downtown Ottawa. He helped to inaugurate the virtual parliament, hybrid parliament that is an innovation in this country and in the world. But the reality is this error is far too serious for it to pass with just an apology as some kind of compensation. He has lost the trust of Parliament, certainly has lost the trust of the NDP caucus, and we found out later today the Bloc Québécois caucus as well, and should step down.
How do you think something like this could have been missed? Ought someone in the Prime Minister's office to have known about Hunka's past?
Well, the reality is, in the time that I've been on Parliament Hill, the Speaker has a great deal of leeway in terms of who they invite. They have reserved places for special events like this one. And they also have the leeway, have the privilege of being the only person that introduces people to the House of Commons in a normal daily order of business. So the Speaker has tremendous leeway. I think it's fair to say, as the Speaker himself said, Anthony Rota said it was my responsibility. I made this choice. I think that is a woeful lack of judgment, and that's why we are saying that he should step down. We were the only party calling for that in the morning. By the afternoon, the Bloc Québécois had joined our call. I think this is one of those issues that over the next day or two, perhaps Mr. Rota will be considering the best way forward. I think he doesn't have any alternative to resigning. And hopefully over the course of the evening, he'll do some self-reflection and decide that in the interests of Parliament, it is best that he step down.
What is your knowledge on the normal security protocol for having a guest in the House? How does the vetting process work? And do the same rules apply to the Speaker as everyone else?
Well, normally it is a security screen. It is a criminal record screen. These are things that are done. The House of Commons keeps a list of people that are banned from Parliament Hill, either because of things that they've done in the past or because of other untoward actions that they've taken. This type of screen doesn't identify people's past necessarily. And so in a case like this, where the Speaker has the purview to fill a certain number of seats, I don't believe there's any real verification that's done. Obviously, we need to change that. And I believe, as a member of the opposition parties, we have normally, in this kind of circumstance, we were basically given information at the very last minute around itinerary, how things will unfold, and I think that's something that we're going to have to change. We need to be working more in concert, I think, as parliamentarians for the visit of any major foreign leader.
Now, Karina Gold, we heard from earlier, stood up in the House today to call for this to be stricken from the record. Do you agree that's something that should be done?
I think the record stands for itself. I do believe we should be reaching out to the Jewish community and seeing what they feel is appropriate in terms of treatment. We need to learn a profound lesson from this. This has shocked the world. Quite frankly, it has tarnished Canadian Parliament. It has cast a stain on the House of Commons. That is another reason why I believe the Speaker needs to step down. But in terms of the permanent record, I think that needs to be discussed in consultation with the Jewish community about what they feel is the most appropriate next steps in terms of reconciling what happened last Friday with the profound feelings that so many of the Jewish community feel for the utter violence and genocide of the Holocaust, and how it must feel to see in our House of Commons being applauded a former member of the SS, that was the organization that committed so many of those atrocious killings. It is something that I don't think Parliament should do on its own. I think Parliament needs to have discussions with the Jewish community about next steps.
Now, there are many layers to this. CTV spoke with the Polish ambassador today, who says that his community also needs an apology. Let's listen to that and then come back.
These were also Polish citizens, and except for the ethnic Jews, the big group also was the ethnic Poles. So we need to keep this in mind, because this is, again, for the Polish communities in Poland and in Canada, which is 1 million people. This is omitting Poles, omitting Poland, and that tragic history is deeply hurtful. Remember that during the Second World War, 6 million Poles were murdered. 6 million Poles died. Half of that group, 3 million, were Polish Jews.
So having heard that, Mr. Julian, does Rhoda owe an apology to the Polish community as well?
I think Parliament does. I think that the first step to start working through that reconciliation is to have the Speaker step down. And the reality is that the millions of Jewish people that were killed, the millions of Polish people that were killed, this is why it is so devastating that we honored an SS member in the House of Commons. Inadvertently, yes, but the reality is tremendous harm and damage has been done. And that's why I think the responsibility comes to the Speaker who organized that and who introduced that man to the House of Commons. It really is incumbent on the Speaker to do the right thing and step down. And then there must be further steps that Parliament must take in order to reconcile with Canadian Jewish people that are feeling incredibly hurt, members of the Polish community that are feeling incredibly hurt. This will take time to work through, but it really starts with the resignation of the Speaker.
Right. Now, do you see Rhoda giving in and resigning anytime soon?
Well, this morning I was the only person in Parliament to stand up and call for his resignation, with the support of the NDP caucus, of course. By the afternoon, the Bloc Québécois had joined our call. I expect that we will see other people in the coming days as well, other parliamentarians saying we really need to understand the size and scope of the hurt that was caused last Friday And the way forward starts with having the speaker step away from the speaker's role. And so I expect some in politics, sometimes these things take a few days to work through. And I do expect ultimately that Mr. Rota will do the right thing. He is a servant of Parliament. He's served Parliament very well. I also think that inevitably we have much more work to do to go back to those communities that have been so profoundly hurt by this, and try in a way to reconcile what happened in Friday with an understanding of what the communities are feeling.
All right, Peter Julian, NDP House Leader, thank you very much for your time tonight.